So let's turn to U.S.-China relations. Last week, you made some comments related to thinking that China wants to seize Taiwan on a, as you said, much faster timeline. What are you seeing that made you think that this is speeding up?
What we've seen is this, and it goes back a few years, not a few months. And actually, let me go back, take a step back even further. One of the hallmarks in the relationship, going back some 50 years, was the way that we handled the issues surrounding Taiwan. And in particular, there was a fundamental understanding in the relationship between Beijing and Washington that differences over Taiwan between Beijing and Taiwan would be managed peacefully, that there would be no unilateral changes to the status quo, and that fundamentally our interest was in peace and stability in the Taiwan Straits. That was the basic understanding. And that understanding held for decades. And I think it was very successful in doing a few things. It allowed Taiwan itself to flourish and its people to flourish. It also helped to make sure that there wouldn't be conflict between the United States and China over Taiwan. What's changed is this: a decision by the government in Beijing that status quo was no longer acceptable, that they wanted to speed up the process by which they would pursue reunification. And they also, I think, have made decisions about how they would do that, including exerting more pressure on Taiwan, coercion, making life difficult in a variety of ways on Taiwan, in the hopes that that would speed reunification, but also holding out the possibility, if that didn't work, of using force to achieve their goals. That is what has fundamentally changed, and we've seen that manifested in actions that China's taken, including with various military maneuvers in the Taiwan Straits, the deployment of forces, etc. Now, as we see it, this is first and foremost an effort, as I said, to turn up pressure on Taiwan. And as to what Beijing might do and when it might do it, I can't be any more precise than that. But the fundamental change has been this change in China's view that the status quo wasn't acceptable. This should be a concern for not just the United States, but for countries not only in the region but around the world. Why? Because if there's any crisis regarding Taiwan, we've got 50% of container ships on a daily basis traveling through the Taiwan Straits. The implications of a crisis, if that were disrupted for the world economy, for supply chains, are significant, more than significant. Semiconductors, chips, as everyone knows by now, the 90% of the sophisticated chips are produced in Taiwan. If that were for any reason disrupted, it would have deeply significant consequences for the global economy. The chips that are in our cell phones, our dishwashers, our automobiles, if that's disrupted, if that's taken out of the supply chain, everyone has a big problem. So everyone has a very big interest, I think, in making very clear to all involved, starting with Beijing, that the world does not want to see any kind of crisis regarding Taiwan, any kind of disruption. And the world believes that these differences need to be resolved peacefully, and that peace and stability needs to be preserved in the Taiwan Strait.